No. Here she goes.
Where you going? Right here.
Everybody.
She can have
She's had enough. I got your back. All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. First of all, I want to thank you all for coming. This is a very important topic. Our main goal is to keep you all safe. When something like this comes to town, we have to organize, we have to talk, we have to converse so that we're all generally on the same page. And again, the Community Police Council's main goal is that everybody do what they feel is right, but they do so peacefully, safely, and law-abiding. So with that, I want the Community Police Council to introduce themselves. I'll start. My name is Jared Grandy. I am the Community Police Relations Coordinator for the City of Dayton Human Relations Council.
I'm Richard Beal, Police Chief and the Co-Chair of the Community Police Council.
Matt Harper, Dayton Police Department, Assistant Chief of Police.
Eric Henderson, Dayton Police Department, Chief of Operations.
Ann Piper, member of the council.
We have any more? Will Smith, member of the Community Police Council.
Shannon Isom, member.
Scott Slider, member of the Community Police Council.
Sarita, a member of the council.
Berletta Jackson, a member of the council.
I think that's it.
Hi, everybody. Erica Smith, at the staff.
So with that for introductions, the purpose of our meeting really was, this is our first meeting outside of the Human Relations Council offices, so it was really to bring the CPC to the community. We have done that a number of ways previously through events, but this is the actual meeting of the Community Police Council, and so the thought was to bring this conversation to the community. This is why we're here tonight. Community Police Council was formed as a board of the City Commission, I believe it's 2016, and it really had a history before that. Established in 2011, is more or less an advisory group of citizens and police officers and city officials working together to improve relations with our community that we serve and to find ways to solve problems that arise and prevent problems from occurring, quite honestly. So the actual formation, the purposes of the Community Police Council are to, I'm going to read these to you, be quick, but create opportunities for residents and youth to engage with police and speak out about safety in their neighborhoods, listen to individual social groups, organizations speak frankly about their relationships with police, build trust through clear and accurate communication, respond swiftly to events dividing police from individuals, neighborhoods, and the community, coordinate activities citywide to strengthen community police relations, and finally develop mutual responsibility and accountability throughout the Dayton community for public safety. So those are the goals of the Community Police Council, and I will now turn it back over to Jared to talk about some of the activities in recent years, and then we'll move down the agenda. The agenda tonight will be the introduction to council. We're also going to introduce Impact, which is an advisory group that works with the Sheriff's Department, and Detective Lane, or Deputy Lane, will talk about that. We're going to talk about framing the May 25th event. I'll be more clear about that when we get to the agenda. Discuss an event marshaling training that's available on May 22nd, next week. And finally, protest versus demonstration, what's lawful and unlawful in very general terms. So that's the agenda. The idea is to move through that rather briskly because we really want to open up for dialogue. So that's the agenda for this evening. I'll turn it back over to Jared.
So if she said I won't be long, we really want to hear from you guys. This is what the CPC is about. The CPC over the last recent years has been present in the community doing block parties, faith-based breakfasts, community dialogues. We have a very robust youth and police real talk program going on right now where young people get a chance to talk to police so they can start to frame their own opinion of law enforcement before they get older and are faced with the same information that we have. We meet monthly, as we've been doing since 2011 or so. And the whole goal is this right here, right? This is a chance for us to come together as a community, to talk to each other, to have a common understanding, to debate if necessary, but at the end of the day, we want to be on the same page. So the Community Police Council has been here for, again, 8 years. We continue to be here, hopefully for another decade and beyond, and we're here to address your concerns. I personally can always be reached by email or by phone, and whatever you guys feel is necessary to be talked about at any of those monthly meetings, we're happy to address that.
So turn it over now to Deputy Lane to talk about the impact and the cooperation and collaboration with the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office.
Thank you, Chief. My name is Larry Lane. I'm with the Sheriff's Office, and a number of years ago, based on a situation within our own agency, we developed Impact. Impact also, we have 17 police agencies across Montgomery County that are part of Impact. Impact stands for Improving Modern Police and Community Trust. The sheriff at that time, Sheriff Plummer, understood that we needed to be proactive and get out into our community ahead of some of the events that we've seen transpire across the nation. And so we recognized the need to improve modern police and community trust. I mean, policing in 2019 is different than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. And how I think one of the positives that have happened through some of the negatives, okay, is the fact that law enforcement is learning to do a better job getting out of our cruisers, interacting with people, because police in general have always been reactive, right? Your house gets broke into, you call us. Your car gets broke into, you call us. And then we show up. And we do a good job of that, but maybe we weren't as good of doing a job in being proactive. And so as a result of that, Impact came along, and so it's a county-wide program. It's very, very similar to the wonderful work that the Dayton Council is doing. We partner with them in a lot of different events, be it block parties and community events, and just working together to make our community safe and a better place. And I think it's important that you understand that Impact is not just a police thing. It is a community thing. And we want to hear from the people of all ages, of all backgrounds, of all situations, so that we can make our community a better place to live in, a safer place to live in, and a place where we learn to trust each other. And I think that is a very, very important thing. And I think the best part of Impact for me is that it's given me the opportunity to meet so many people, right, that I normally wouldn't have never gotten to meet. People of all different backgrounds and situations, people who live in various parts of Montgomery County that I typically don't get to go to and be a part of. So that's really what we're a part of. We meet every other month. I do have some brochures, of course, and if you're interested, to get a brochure from me, and then we can go from there. But we're excited to be here, to work together to make this event that not into a negative, but turn a negative situation into a positive. Thanks, Jared.
You're welcome. I would be remiss if I didn't bring you greetings from our community co-chair. His name is Julio Mateo. He's been our co-chair for about 6 months now, and he's one of the community members that lead this effort along with Chief Bill and I. And with that, I want to read our statement, because we do have an official statement. The CPC does have an official position on the matter. The CPC unequivocally condemns any message of hate and in no way supports HSK's efforts to disrupt and corrupt the residents of the greater Dayton community. The City of Dayton has profusely stated that hate is not a Dayton value, and the Dayton Police Department stands on its core values of professionalism, integrity, fairness, and respect. The CPC will continue to work with the City of Dayton and law enforcement to enhance efforts to keep Dayton residents safe. The CPC encourages residents and community to do what they feel is right in the face of hate, and in doing so, remaining peaceful, law-abiding, and staying safe. The CPC remains dedicated to improving the city of Dayton by helping to ensure that we are unified around a common goal of safety, fairness, respect, and justice.
Thank you for sharing that statement. So a little bit more about framing this event on May 25th, and that really how our community is going to respond. A lot of that was expressed at a meeting at Grace United Methodist Church, and there were, at least from my view, when hearing everyone speak, at the end there seemed to be three different perspectives or views. And one was, don't go anywhere near that event. Do not give them the recognition. Do not give them a platform. Do not give them visibility to communicate this message of hate. That was one view. Another view was, let's have an event that expresses us, our values as members of the community. Let's not be reactive to someone else's event. So that was another view. So there's individuals who were scheduling events themselves during the same time that this event's going to be happening at the courthouse square. And then the third view was really, this is a message that cannot be left unaddressed. This message of hate must be challenged. So those are the views that were really kind of came out. There's probably even some other views maybe that have emerged since, but clearly that night those were the three general views expressed. And we are realistic that individuals are going to probably fall on all three of those views and then respond accordingly. And perhaps there's others that we don't even know about it, by the way. But that seems to be the general theme. And what our goal, at least certainly for the Community Police Council, but also I'll speak specifically Police Department, is whatever citizens choose to do, is that we want to provide an environment where they're safe to engage in those activities with, again, the understanding that they are lawful activities, because we cannot support something that's not lawful. So that's generally the views that were expressed in our community. We certainly will be willing to hear other views here after we finish some of these formal remarks, because there may be other views of things that people want to do in response or just in terms of personal expression. So we're here to hear that. But that's generally the conversation that occurred at Grace United Methodist Church, and those conversations continue to evolve since. If anyone is interested, if that is their commitment, they feel the best for them to be down at this event and this venue, then there's training available through the Department of Justice Community Relations Services. It's event marshal training. And I'm going to let Jared Grandy speak about that training. It's going to be hosted on May the 22nd.
Yes, sir. So this is an opportunity for lay citizens who really want to get involved, who want to be a point of contact for the community as the rally occurs, who want to have a little bit more contingency planning, from de-escalation training. The Department of Justice Community Services is going to provide this training free of charge to you guys on May 22nd from 6 to 9 at Central State West, and the address is 840 Germantown. 45417. So anybody interested in really being involved and really wants that responsibility of keeping people safe, which is a noble responsibility, I should add, then you can register for that event. There's an event link right that I'll get to you all via email, or you can find it at the Dayton Human Relations Council's Facebook page or on our website.
And then finally, the last topic just to be touched on, and we can't go into great detail because this is situational specific when it relates to conduct, but as it relates to protest or demonstration, there is a difference between lawful conduct and unlawful conduct. So free speech is not without its limitations, and that doesn't matter regardless of who's speaking. There are laws that can be violated if individuals try to force their way into an area that's closed off. If there's blocking ingress or egress, entrances or access to businesses that have a right to do business without someone blocking customers. There's laws that prohibit someone from making a specific threat of violence against another individual that places that person in fear. So there are a number of laws in this state that should a person engage in that conduct, it is no longer free speech. It is a criminal offense, and those offenses can lead to arrest. I mean, just quite simple. So I can't define every single law that could be violated. Disorderly conduct is another one. Causing people to be alarmed by behavior. Inconvenience would be another, like blocking entrances or exits into a business or roadway, etc. So there's a number of laws that are applied to this particular situation and individuals' potential conduct. Those laws need to be followed so it's safe for everyone, and then everyone has the right to express themselves, which is then constitutional and not a violation of law. So it's just very general context for there is a difference between what's legal and illegal in terms of conduct in such an event. And with that, we're going to open up for questions or conversation.
Commissioner, thank you very much for your presence tonight. Chief Judge, ladies of law enforcement community. First, my name is George DeMarco. I'm from the University of Dayton, but I am not speaking on behalf of our university. Although our esteemed president has declared on numerous occasions that hate has no place on our campus. In the literature phrase, hate has no place here. We certainly, as Daytonians, believe that. So, Officer Lane, specifically, I'm pleased that you're excited to be here tonight. I have the greatest respect for the Sheriff's Office. However, I can't imagine that any one of us would not rather be somewhere else.
Oh, absolutely.
And to have the hate of these vicious, bigoted individuals coming to our city, and to have them dictate the terms of their visit here, as was explicated in today's daily news, is what elicits the intense passion from this privileged white person, son of the 60s, who no Viola Buelso nor James Reed. And so, in the spirit of my soul sister, Yolanda Simpson, who in our last gathering, our first meeting, spoke about how the county commissioners issued the permit for these people to visit our gem city. I understand the dynamics and I understand the legalities. And let me re-emphasize my admiration, respect, and love for those of the Blue Line. Our campus police are among my best friends and best heroes. So I understand that you all, as much as I can, are going to be dealing with on May 25th. Nonetheless, could you possibly, even though it is situation specific, explain to us what this cordon-off area is going to look like? What it will be like when estimated 10, possibly 20 of these hooded individuals who, evidently, declared with tremendous hubris that they're still going to be able to carry and wear their hoods, will descend upon the specter of spirit on our city on Saturday 25th. So what's that cordon going to look like? Some of our soul sisters and brothers described what it was like in 1994, last year, when there were conflicts around the country. What's to prevent that?
I'm sorry, prevent what now?
What's to prevent the best plan that you all can possibly implement from going awry in the situation we described in today's paper, described the court around the courthouse where these minutes to enter and to exit, from not achieving their ultimate objective, which is to elicit response of negativity. They are here to hate, to speak hate. What is to prevent?
The biggest prevention is going to be the conduct of everyone who is there. We all choose. We all choose. And that's where we have the ability to change and prevent things from happening. Trust me, there is going to be substantial police presence in the city, to include the downtown area. I will not give specifics at this time about the area that will have some restricted access. That will only unfold later on. We cannot go into any great details about what the plan is. That would be unwise. Just tell you that we have gone to great lengths to plan appropriate, to have the required and ample resources available to maximize the safety of anyone who should choose to attend this rally and the remainder of the city. That's our commitment. Beyond that, I cannot really expound further. I just can't.
I appreciate that. What the plan describes here is that after there are 2 hours of fire, they are to be ushered out and into exit. And so it's as if they're on some type of reverse field trip under the supervision of taxpayer-funded law enforcement. It just seems very, very difficult to make a conceptualize.
Sure.
Very, very difficult. And to the best of my limited ability, intellect, to understand why it is that you all can't divulge the complete plan of the plan, but enough to permit those who want to be present to know what they will be facing. And I say they. 2 weddings that weekend, one in Pennsylvania and one in Ohio. And in wrestling with the decision, this is just question, I appreciate you all listening to this, whether I can sacrifice that in the spirit of what we also agree to be present. I sure as hell would like to be present. But for those who are going to put their lives on the line, should be present, not to know what they're going to be walking into when these bigoted people are going to be here is something that is very difficult for me to understand. Thank you very much.
Yes.
I read that article too, because of my age. Real plan around security was plain, and that would be allowed. You're not coming in with your long rifles. They're not going to be in military uniforms. They're not going to have shields. Bat, long gun, police uniforms, rifles, back in the day when they came to picket, about the 50s and 60s, they had all of that. And this seems sort of mild compared to back in the day. The message of hate has always been there. But a real planned rally with I'm pretty sure it's on the internet about what they really look like. And using my store, I didn't take Bush look as vicious as the 60s and 50s. And we were known to do. So I don't think people would be bragging or boasting if they saw the real plan. Because yes, they got the men they hate that much. We get to away some of the things that we normally hear.
Yeah, there's a difference between the way hate groups operate then and the way they do now. But as you said, the message is still the same. And that message still causes a lot of turmoil and violence in the community. You know, the elephant in the room is Charlottesville. That's what we don't want to happen again. And I think this is our best effort, part of our best effort to prevent something like that happening again. That's why we want to give you guys the opportunity to ask questions about how to proceed on that day so that, you know, we don't have anything close to what happened on that day. There's no denying that these people still exist. This hateful attitude still exists. The spirit is still alive, and it's up to us to do what we can to drown it out with peace and love.
Not surprising, a number of questions. One, I found it very hard to hear.
Yes.
But it sounds
Excellent.
sophisticated.
Right.
That kind of thing. One of the things about Charlottesville is I didn't get the sense it was a person that belonged to the group demonstrating, but a lot
Believe me, we have taken all possible considerations into our planning process. So we're well aware of what happened in Charlottesville and also aware of what's happened around the country. Truly, we have done our homework. So with all of the information we have gathered from the various agencies that we have had firsthand conversations with, we certainly know the various risks that we're facing, and the plan is designed to address those risks.
I think it's smart enough. We live in McPherson Town, literally across the river. And the normal way we'd go home is on Main Street. Is that probably a good idea to walk across the Main Street Bridge, or should we consider taking a long walk and going around on Monument?
I mean, I don't see any reason why you can't walk down Main Street.
I don't know.
I mean, a bridge, I mean, you're going over the bridges under construction.
I'm going out of town, and because of the lane closures, I don't have the opportunity to walk opposite the direction of traffic.
I mean, more information will be coming out very close to the day of. I mean, certainly in advance of that. So where there will be any street blockages, that will be public well in advance. So.
Okay. Why here? Is there within the community people that will respond and want what these people are saying? It's not my perception of Dayton as a person who came here 20-odd years ago, but...
I don't know that we have a complete answer for why here.
If they have a history, they were hotbedded in the 20s, horrible story of
in Dayton?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, well, like I say, we're from Pennsylvania.
Of the Klan rallies, the anti-Catholic sentiment was just vicious. It came to the university, the great story of Harry Bojan, football coach, telling the football players to chase them, have with them if they will. So they have a horrible history in Indiana, horrible history. 94.
So are you guys also monitoring some of the groups that are in areas like Cincinnati and Columbus and in Indiana who are coming to support this group, because they're not going to be barricaded off. They're not going to be behind the road. They're going to be infiltrating into the various areas, and they will be allowed to carry. I'm assuming that because Ohio is an open carry state, that people who are actually going to be a part of either part of counter protests or support of them will be able to carry guns. So are you able to monitor all of these other groups that are talking about coming to support?
I will merely repeat, we have done our homework. We have done our homework.
Because there are people who have contacted others who are absolutely confident that they'll be able to create and incite violence when they have said so.
Because we're well aware of potential risk. Again, we have done our homework. We have checked with other cities. We have our own history here. So we certainly, those who are here were there for 1994. So we have done our homework.
And the one thing I wanted to add too is that martial training on the 22nd I think is important, because there's things that you may go down there with the right intentions, but when you hear certain things or someone's in your face saying something that you don't agree with, emotions can run high. So that's why I think it's important if you are going to go attend that martial training and get some additional training, so to make sure that you understand how you can or should react. But I think that's why you've heard from some segments of the community also is to stay away, because you could go there with the right intentions and still be incited, or your emotions will run high.
Okay. Of course, guys, I mean, people want us to stay away, which is probably unrealistic for most. What advice do you have for the people that are clearly going to make sure bus riders that have no idea what's going on don't get rounded up? Like the people that are going to be the peacemakers or the peacekeepers, like what advice do you have for them?
I think just repeating this martial training, I think, is important. Trust me, that when if you decide to come, it'll be really clear. The areas where it would be appropriate for you to be and to express your First Amendment rights also. So there'll be some guidance at the scene when you get there.
My concern is not so much what's going to happen downtown, My concern is that we've had these talks with you all. I think the biggest one I went to was the one they had at the Civic Center downtown. And every time we had these meetings, but nothing come out of them. And like the gentleman said, you don't see guys with white hoods and white shoes shooting our black unarmed men. These guys wear blue uniforms. And I don't know what are you all doing to help curb some of that. And I don't see you all in the community like you all promised that you would do that last meeting we had. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you were downtown with because they had a hamburger thing, hot dog thing. It was a big to-do. And nothing came out of it. And nothing going to come out of this, just venting our frustration. I don't want to vent my frustration. I want to see some of my frustration in action. And it's time that this city of Dayton start looking to the community. I don't see no church around here. Now, and that's the biggest part. That's the biggest part of our community, church. And I've said, and this is my third meeting, and nothing has been done as a result of the police meeting in the community. You wave at these dumb cops, they act like they don't see you, and you try to say something to them, they ignore you, and you know they look like, you know, I'm King Kong with a badge. I mean, but this is y'all training. Y'all can say that, but you don't do it. What do we look for? What do we look for in our community? I don't see nobody walking down the community shaking folks' hands, saying, hey, I'm off the so-and-so, I'm here to protect your community. And if we get in the community, then your job will be easy. But you don't want us to tell on us, but you don't want to tell on you. Y'all got that, what, cold blue? You don't tell on your fellow cops? Okay, some of that stuff need to quit.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Don't necessarily agree with everything you said. Trust me, we discipline officers when they're wrong. We fire them when their conduct is egregious. They get criminally prosecuted. So we don't agree. We are in community events across this city every week throughout the year. So I invite you to come out to some of the many events that we're at and the many programs.
I don't see no preacher here.
Yeah, well.
Hey, no. Hey, you write them? Hey, no. These are preachers. I'm talking about the big guys.
Yeah, I think, yes, we do. So to address your concern, sir, I think a lot of them are valid, and part of the Human Relations Council's mission and part of the CPC's mission is to increase the profile. Again, we meet monthly to talk about these issues. Trust me, they're not easy conversations. Me and Chief has gone back and forth on many occasions, and a lot of the CPC, the people in the CPC, and the goal is to ultimately improve policing to the extent that we can, to the extent that we make it the greatest police force in Ohio and nationwide. There's no claim that it's currently that, but I can attest to the efforts being made to hear the community concerns. Now, we could do a better job of publicizing our events. There's no question about that. You know, this is an effort to make a public showing to you all, to let you all know that there is a body of people here who meets at least monthly to address those very concerns. And God forbid anything happens that would make national news. It is the job of the command staff here, the leadership here, to pass down their beliefs throughout the police department so that it's reflected in their daily activity and that you as citizens feel that they've been trained properly and they've been talked to properly and they've been disciplined properly if they do violate policy. So there's a tremendous amount of work still to be done to that regard. There's no denying that, but we're on it.
I guess amending what the brother said here, in regards to the specific event that's coming up, have you reached out to churches, to the African American, Greek, to the Masons? There, I think you can get a large population of people who might be interested in that training if they got some specific invitation or knowledge of the event, so it might be worth your while to do something to that effect.
Yes, sir. So there's a large list of pastors we have from those faith-based breakfasts, and it's my intent, it should have been done already, honestly, but it's my intent to share with them that link so that they can register for this training, because I do think that's a good idea.
And just to kind of refresh everyone's memory, there was the event at Grace United Methodist Church, and I think there was probably about 300 people there for that gathering and that conversation. Not everybody agreed at the end, and I didn't really necessarily expect everyone would. That's why everyone has a different perspective. That's what it's about. They have those voices heard. Clearly everyone there is very committed to doing something in response to this event, and to do something that's hopefully constructive and lifts our community up. That's clearly what I heard. And I don't know how many members of clergy were there, but I would suspect that it was more than Pastor Sherry. So.
The NAACP is having an event on the same day. Right. And if you go to our Facebook page, you'll see a long list of community groups and churches that are going to be at the Peace Rally. There's over 30, and people are calling daily to be part of that. So that a lot of churches have decided not to come to the Peace Rally, but if you want to see what church and whom, go to the NAACP Facebook page, not the regular website, but the Facebook page. And also, I like the foot soldiers there, they avoided a riot. I'm talking about police and community relationship. When they had that case about the boy that mysteriously went over the bridge, and a group of people came together to riot, and the foot soldiers came out and calmed. This is different. Calm the group of people there. So I think calming is important, and that's because I was in the Detroit riots, which is considered one into the Watts riots, the Bloodies riot, and there's many movies about it. So I'd rather talk about something and see if we can avoid it than not have no communication and people riot. Because riots are very dangerous. The innocent get killed. And I was looking at the information, thousands went to jail, thousands were injured. So maybe if they're trying to avoid a riot, if they have in modern day, to me this is modern day methods, when you want to communicate before it actually happened. And that's, to me, that's why I like foot soldiers. They avoid a riot. Now, I'm just not ready for another riot. And I've been to Haiti, and they had one there. I'm not ready for one. But if we can talk it out, maybe get some information about how to avoid it, maybe we won't have another riot or a major incident where somebody gets hurt or killed.
You touched on something that I want to touch on a little bit more, and that's alternative events. If you go to UnitedAgainstHateDayton.com, we have a website that has a list of alternative events. And there's a starter list, but we're continuing to build that list. So if you have any events planned or you know of any events, you can go to that website, go to the calendar and add an event yourself, so that people have options to engage in whatever way they feel is the most productive. So again, that's UnitedAgainstHateDayton.com, and we strongly encourage you to post any events that you know
of. Based on the article that was in the Dayton Daily News today, I presume that there would be no stricture or objection if I choose to come down to stand against the hate and choose to wear a mask at the same time.
Your choice.
Okay.
That's if his wife
In addition to wearing a mask, you'd be able to carry a firearm. And in that very same piece which we both read?
Well, I don't have a permit.
If you so chose, in the spirit of the Deacons of Defense, about whom I was educated by a very, very intelligent and wise colleague recently, who escorted King in his marches during the Civil Rights March, an unknown part of our civil rights history, that there were armed guards protecting some of those marches. They were called the Deacons of Defense. And so during 3 of the 4 multiple negotiating sessions by a conference called the Indiana-based Clan Group didn't budge on 2 of their points. How is it they have any negotiation position? How is it that our city attorney, who I'm sure is a fine person, otherwise he wouldn't be a city attorney, was in the position to be dictated to that they be permitted to wear hoods and carry firearms? And so that's one question. Second, if I, as you, sir, I'm George, you are?
I'm Dave.
Dave, were to wear a hood and to, by virtue of our state laws, carry a firearm, and I'm a peace-loving man, but this is elicited indignance in my white privileged position that caused me to consider to carry a firearm. So please, first question.
Well, first of all, just a little bit of clarity. I don't know, it makes potentially a lot of difference, but it's masks, not hoods, that they intend to wear. So just for a little clarity. The other thing is it has to do with Ohio law. And there's no law that prohibits the wearing of a mask, or if you follow what's happening in the legislature, they continue to pass laws that make it even more easier for citizens to carry weapons. I mean, that's what's going on.
Make your job any easier or any safer?
Nope.
Hell no. God have mercy on us all. Thank you.
Hi, that Saturday is going to be difficult, but it doesn't end on Saturday. Once these people go back to Indiana, absolutely, the hate is still going to be here. The bigotry is still going to be here. What has been done for the communities, for the neighborhoods, that will help people not to become victims, that will teach them how to act and react in situations where that hatred is still present?
Well, I know there's been a call the following day, and it leads through the NAACP, to actually do a cleansing of the square itself the following day. So that I know I've heard as part of the community conversation. I will go back to, it is a choice whether we carry that or not. It is a choice. You know, an amazing story came out of the Sikh temple shooting in Oak Creek, Wisconsin, now probably 5 years ago. I had a chance to have dinner with the police chief, John Everts, in the fall 5 years ago. The event actually occurred, I believe it was in July. And he said that the day after, and this was actually the lieutenant who was wounded, Brian, who was shot and still has, you know, distorted voice because he was shot and it went down, deflected into his throat. Shot multiple times but survived. But the members of the Sikh community came out the next day and said they forgave the assailant because they did not want to carry hate in their hearts. So I understand that we can be affected by events in our life, by people's words, acts. It does become a choice whether we carry it, though, and how long.
And if I may, the symbolic gestures are important. I do think it's value in that kind of communication. However, there are very real issues. Hate presents itself in many different ways, and one of the most common ways is discrimination. And the city has ordinances against discrimination. So if you're a victim of such behavior, you have ways to redress that. The Dayton Human Relations Council has a awesome investigative team who will look into your case and try to provide as best they can some conciliation or redress to that behavior. On a daily basis, we work to get minority businesses contracts, subcontracts with the city. I work to, again, facilitate these conversations so that the police are more informed about your issues. Our executive director superwoman. She does everything. So hate is a real thing. It's a real thing. It's not just a symbolic thing. It's not just a spirit that exists in a cloud somewhere. It's embodied by people, and sometimes people do horrible things. However, we try our best to provide some redress if you're a victim to that behavior.
And I'll comment on that. Thank you, Gia. I mean, I think it's critically important that people acknowledge what you said. That's the first step. So acknowledging that hate is a real thing, like Jared said, and what is happening here on the 25th for many people in our community is not just an event. And this is a conversation that we've had in this body and outside of that it's not just an event, it's real life. And people experience this type of behavior, have been victims, right, of this type of behavior for their entire life, right, and far too often. And so one acknowledging that hate is real, bigotry is real, discrimination is real, inequity is real in this community and beyond. And so being able to have open and honest, transparent conversations about that is the first step, and acknowledging it, and then figuring out what do we do next. So part of the conversation that we've been having within Human Relations Council and even in this body with our partners is, you know, how do we prepare for this event, right? And how do we lead up to this event? But more importantly, what do we do next? How do we sustain dialogue, conversation, movement, but action? And so how do we begin to chip away at some of the things that we're seeing that are a result of hate? Because it's real. And again, we need to acknowledge it. And so as Jared said, you know, we do a number of things within, you know, HRC to investigate and adjudicate civil rights discrimination complaints. But there are a lot of other resources within this city that I think we need to bring to light, a lot of other people that I think want to be a part of the conversation and the solution. And that's a priority, so I appreciate what you said because I don't think we're addressing that in a real and honest and transparent way. So as a next step, I mean, I challenge all of us to participate in these conversations and this dialogue to figure out what we need to do to make some real movement and action to address that. So,
and can I add, you know, when I use the word excited, I am definitely not excited about this event. I am outraged with you, like just about everybody in this room, that these individuals, and I use that term lightly, are coming into our community to bring hate and discord, because I work every day, to try to diminish that. But I'm excited that we take this opportunity to do exactly what Erica just said, and Jared said, and the chief said, to address the issue that this man said, that we take this opportunity to not just let an event come and go, but rather that we as a community learn that we need each other desperately. White folks, black folks, Hispanic folks, immigrants, rich, poor, east side, west side, that we learn to embrace one another. And if we somehow, some way, that this event sparks that, as horrible as this event is, as outrageous as this event is, then I am excited that we will begin to move forward to address the systemic issues in our community, be it economic, be it racial, be it police and people. And if we do that, that's why I'm excited, that we take this ugly opportunity. You know, Scripture tells us that all things work together. Not everything is good. Some things stink. This event stinks. It's a stench in the nostrils of our community. But what are we going to do with it? What are we going to be defined by? I will not be defined by a bunch of goofs, that come from Indiana. I will not allow that to define my community and the people that I work with every day. I'm going to define it by reaching across, and for that, I take the opportunity to be excited. So even when I used that word, when that word came out of my mouth, I went, oops, that was the wrong word, because I didn't want it to be misread. And so I just want to take an opportunity. because I'm not excited about that event, but I am excited that we take this opportunity. You know, I am better at my job at 59 than I was at 39. And you know why? Because I've met people like her, and him, and Will, and Jared. That's why, and Eric, that's why I'm better at 59 than I ever was at 39. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm done.
Can I ask another question? This sounds amazing, and what the gentleman said, it sounds incredible, that all of these wonderful things are happening. But in the community, the people don't see what you're talking about. They don't feel like it's trickling down to the community. They don't feel all this love. And it's great that you guys do community projects. I applaud you for that, because that is probably one of the first steps that you can take to engage with the community. So what we need to know as community members, what do we need to do to express to you specifically that we don't feel all of this great love coming from the police department? We don't experience that on Hoover Avenue or Gettysburg. We don't feel like that we are actually having this wonderful relationship with the police department. We are also very afraid that come May 25th, that not only are you going to be monitoring, you know, very aggressively this hate group, but also boys of color. And we're real concerned how you're going to respond to them if they do act up or if something happens. We're afraid that they're going to be arrested and become a part of the system. So tell us what we can do as a community to let you know that the love that you're talking about, these wonderful projects, all of this inclusiveness, the community's not feeling it. And what exactly are you going to do to make sure, excuse me, that our young boys of color are not being arrested on May 25th? That's what we're concerned about.
Now, I think if you look at the history of a number of years, I can't count the number of, quote, demonstration protests we've had over the years. And people have gone out of their way to compliment us on how we've responded to it. We did not have to make arrests, even though, quote, sometimes people were violating the law, because we use good judgment about what's important and what's not as it relates to crowd management. So we do this every year, every month, on and on and on. In terms of, you know, reaching the community, invite us. Invite us. I don't know how else to do it. There's 140,000 people in the city of Dayton. That's a tall order for 375 police officers to get that personal touch to 140,000. And that's just the people who live here, not all the people that come here. So invite us. We'll show up.
I don't think it's an invitation on some great, you know, softball. You know, every day.
Sure it is. Sure it is.
So we don't feel like it's our responsibility to invite you to treat us like human beings. We don't feel that way. We feel like it's an everyday, daily interaction. It's the way you respond to the kids who are at the bus hub. It's the way you respond to the kids who have to ride the bus who go to Ponus or Meadowdale. Those are things that concern us. It's the traffic stops that are getting us killed and arrested and have to actually pay fines to get out of jail. Those are things that we're concerned about. We think you're great people. You know, this is not a criticism of police as a group, as an organization, but it's individual experiences that black people are being, unfortunately, treated differently than they would if they lived in predominantly white areas. So it's not that we're concerned about. It's the everyday experiences that are concerning us.
Right. And to address that, one of the most common themes at the table that we say that every month is, I can attest to Chief's philosophy, and he said on many occasions that that policing is relational in nature. And so for the community to feel the love and to believe what we're saying here today, chief's philosophy has to spread throughout the whole department. I don't have the answer on how we accomplish that, but I agree, and I think many members of the CPC agrees that it has to be done. Somehow we have to take this way of thinking, this belief system, and spread it throughout the force. So that way the officer who's on Germantown feels the way you're speaking of, that they feel the love, that they feel the respect, that they feel like they're being treated like human. You know, the police officers in this room can tell you a lot better than I can, but I'd imagine that it's hard to take someone, a recruit from, let's say, Enon, Ohio, or Preble County, or Norfolk Columbus, or something like that, gender them into our community, and and give them the skills necessary so that community members feel that they're being respected. Procedural justice is one of the most important things a police officer can do, which is, you know, if you do get pulled over, if you do get stopped, or if you do interact with the police officer, it's done in such a way that you leave with your dignity intact. I once heard a story about a lady getting a ticket, and the police officer was so respectful that she thanked him for giving her a ticket. You know, so that kind of policing is possible. The question is, how do we get here?
You know, it don't take a rocket scientist to figure out some of this stuff. I mean, it's just going to grow bad. You all have to get off your butt, get out of the car, and start walking down the street, take a folks in. Back to them folks up, how are you doing? My name is Officer so-and-so. I'm Mr. Smith, how you doing? So when I got a problem, I can call down to the police department and get that cop's name. He ain't got to come out door every day. At least show up once. You all ain't making no effort. I mean, you ride down my street and you ain't that busy. You ride down, everybody, you ain't talking to nobody. I mean, let's be real. I mean, it don't, you know, get out of your cars and start walking up some of these doors in the area that you're supposed to patrol. I mean, ain't no rocket science. I mean, just get out of your car, knock on the door, I'm Officer so-and-so, I'll be controlling your community. But what's wrong with that? It don't take that long. But no effort on your part. But y'all want us to be nice to you, but then you want to be nice to us. Something right in the picture. You want us to respect you, but you don't want to respect us. And something ain't right in that picture. And like she was saying, I don't feel that you all talk about. When y'all have these daily affairs that we're not invited because I don't live in the right neighborhood, okay? That's what I'm talking about.
If I may say, as a member of CPC, I would just like to say I commend this young lady and this gentleman here for saying what you said, because basically they are pleading to us. They are pleading with their open hearts, and it takes a lot to do that. So I don't speak on behalf of the police department or anything. Just as a community member of CPC, I'm going to say we're going to take, if I may, we're going to take this back, and we're going to talk about it at our next meeting, and we're going to definitely do what we can, because I think, again, it's a collective effort. We want to be here for you and serve you in the best capacity that we can. And if you are being overlooked in any capacity, I'm sure the chief as well as everyone else, we want to do better and do as much as we can to make you safe and be a part of your own community.
I have a question. Would we be having these meetings to confront to that May 25th? Will we consider having these meetings?
We've been having these meetings since 2011.
Oh,
so, yeah.
But anything been done that deserves it?
Yes. Yes.
Like I said, I don't feel that my community.
Yeah, actually, if I could add something, I think this might address part of what you're saying. We have officers attending all the neighborhood meetings in a community. We have over 60 neighborhoods in the city of Dayton. They attend the meetings regularly, so I would encourage everybody to get plugged into the neighborhood associations and to meet that neighborhood officer. Secondly, we have hundreds of our officers attend hundreds of events per year. It's about 600 events last year, and that includes neighborhood meetings, block parties, training sessions. We offer every kind of training you can imagine to businesses, to churches, to residents, crime prevention information. And they have reached...
Coats for kids, shoes for kids, angel tree presents for youth that aren't going to get presents at Christmas, police and youth together camp. I mean, it goes on and on and on.
And they've reached tens of thousands of citizens in our communities. So a lot of things are being done and have been done for several years, and that includes ride-alongs where citizens ride with a police officer to try to gain some perspective there, and I know a lot of the CPC members have participated in that. So these things have been occurring for several years now, and that's in addition to the law enforcement that automatically comes to mind when you think of police officers. So, we're asking a lot of our police officers, and they're actually responding very positively in that regard.
Also, the city manager announced a major citizen engagement initiative that's going to happen this summer. I think the goal is to reach a fourth or a fifth of all households in the city of Dayton through all the mid-management, which including police commanders, literally knocking on doors and saying hi to folks and explaining some of the services that have been delivered and things that have happened since issue 9, etc. So that begins this summer, and again, the goal is, I think it's 18,000 households will be touched through direct outreach, so that's coming too. So.
Sir, I would also say to add to that, hold the Community Police Council accountable as well. You know now that we're here and we're want to make ourselves visible. So we've been meeting, as you said, and you might not have known this.
That's right.
We've been meeting since 2011. So I admit we probably need to do a better job of letting you know who we are, that we're here. We've been having these conversations, these tough conversations, the same ones that we're having now that you brought up. Hold us accountable to that, right? So to the extent that we can do a better job of reaching out to students and communities that really need to be part of the conversation more than anybody else. So I appreciate your comment as well, and you know that we're here now.
Yeah, and I believe that this been more advertised, you'd have more people down here instead of just a small whisper group. And we're having people over there at one point whispering to other folks. But if you'd have put it on national TV, said something about it on the radio or something, this place couldn't hold everybody. And that's my point. You all do things in other neighborhoods, but I ain't seen you in my neighborhood. Okay, y'all have barbecues in their neighborhood, but I ain't seen no barbecue in my neighborhood.
So, and I'll make the commitment in front of you and the rest of the city to do a better job of publicizing our events, marketing our events, and letting you guys know that we're here for you. And I also want you to know that your concerns about the systemic issues do not fall on deaf ears. The people at the table on the CPC are very smart. They understand the history and the systems and the institutions and the policies and the procedures that lead to that feeling that people feel on a daily basis. Before I am a community police relations coordinator, I'm a black male, and trust me, I've experienced what you're saying. There's no question about it. But I understand that it's a process. It's a process. It's a painstakingly slow process. It doesn't happen overnight. We're talking about centuries that a mindset that has existed for centuries. And to reverse that, it's going to take some time. But again, I can tell you that I'm committed to letting you guys know that we're here for you all, and I'm committed to continue to have those difficult conversations along with my fellow CPC members.
I was going to mention something about the Catholics because, and Martin Luther King, I remember when I was young, Martin Luther King came to Detroit, and we had a priest that was Catholic that did a lot of marching and protesting. And basically we were unarmed, and we never carried guns. And we didn't have nobody walking beside us with guns. We were just willing to take the bullet if we had to. And some of my relatives took the bullet, and they did. But you got to understand the Civil Rights Act, and this is why I say hate is still here, because we were protesting for our rights, African American rights, and since so many Catholics and Caucasians came, they asked for rights too. So that's why the Civil Rights Act says race, gender, ethnic group, and religion. Because when John Kennedy got elected, we said, can a Catholic be a president? So it's, that hate has always been there, and I hate to say it's still here. And it's the Civil Rights Act is supposed to have done away with discrimination, but it has not. And that's why you go to the council, you protest. You got Civil Rights Council, you can protest discrimination, all type of discrimination. But I hate to think that this hate is still here against religious groups and the Catholics, because it's always been there as long as I can remember. And it's still here. And it's not supposed to be. It's against the law. And nothing's changed. Things have changed, but a lot of things have remained.
Thank you, Renee. Are there any more questions? Go ahead.
A couple of things. One, I, as a member of the CPC, just want to say that these are the things that we talk about at the CPC, for one. That one of the things that we do recognize is, as with as much outreach that goes on, there's always going to be parts that are missed. If we are at a community and we're at a neighborhood association meeting, for the most part, most of those neighborhood association meetings are people that are 50 and up. So we have to start.
And there's like 1/3 of your community.
Right, and so that's where, and we've had these kind of conversations at the CPC table. So I want people to understand that these kind of things that we're wrestling with in this large group, that we wrestle with each other, and that we want to put out there, that we recognize that. And I think one thing in our community, sometimes when people speak out, we forget to at least recognize it, because we need to recognize people's truths, and that's a big thing. So if people feel that they don't feel loved, that they don't feel that this is trickling down, they don't get this outreach, we have to first acknowledge that. And we have to really take that in and say, okay, then what can we do as a community? And one of the things that I put myself out there to do is for people to reach out to me. At any time, I give people my number, email address at any time, because those are the voices we need. Because no matter what we do in our community, we have to move. At some point, we have to get on one accord. And that is a hard task. Even as Chief alluded to, it's a hard task with 140,000 people in our community, but we still have to be at that task. And so we can't ever look at things like, okay, it's hard, so we stop. Because that would be a failure on all of us, is to look at something hard and just stop at it. And I think that's why we actually do what we do. We have these hard conversations. We get strenuous conversations, and that is the big thing. The big thing is really getting out to people and having these conversations. Having the conversations where a law enforcement officer can go down here in DeSoto Bass and not feel a different way than they might feel if they're in Wright Dunbar or over in McPherson Town. These are real things, because we also have to remember that we're all humans. We are all humans, and at the point when we stop looking at each other in the human lens is where we're all messed up. And I think for so long, people have not felt like they're humans. And so when we look at this May 25th thing, like Erica said before, it's not, for some communities, some people look at this as just another day. Some people are looking and they're disgusted with it. And I would challenge people that are really disgusted and angered and feel the stench of hate to really carry that on and really start to meet people in these communities. Because there's nothing that somebody from Indiana can do about, predatory lending. There's nothing that somebody coming here from Indiana can do about money getting taken from our public school systems, about the criminal justice system. These are the things that people face daily. So while people are, they're looking at this as this big circle day on their calendar, there are people that are trying to get past today. There are people, if you go down the street from here, there are people trying to figure out what their child is going to eat today. And that's the real hate that a lot of people are speaking of. That's the real hate that people have grown up with. If you cross 3rd Street Bridge, it's the Peace Bridge for a reason, because we've had internal hate here. It's a reason why, if you look at our city, it's been segregated for years. So we, like Larry said, we have to find a way to come together. And one of those things is we cannot leave this room without knowing somebody. I can't leave this room without knowing this young lady right here next to me, because that would be a waste of our time. Yeah. And so one of the things that we have to do is not leave these places thinking things are going to magically change without putting in that work. And some of that work is really talking to people. And we have to sometimes use what we know. We know if this was a regular event, we wouldn't have all these cameras here. You put KKK out and it's going to draw attention. It's going to happen. But we would be fools not to use that to put out the real message of what's going on in our community and how can we get the people that are angered, people that are coming from Brookville and coming from Oakwood and saying, you know, I hate that there's hate in Dayton. It's like, well, come down here more often. I can show you what's really going on. I mean, that's real. So we have to use that. And so I just want to say that I'm glad people are here, but I really want people to look inside and meet more people, talk to more people, because that's what we do. Every time we meet with the CPC, we have real conversations, and they're real conversations that are based around how do we make this a better city, and a better city for everybody, because when I sit at that table, I'm not sitting there representing me. I'm representing my family. I'm representing other black families from West Dayton. I'm representing the people that I see struggling every day. So I want you guys to know that that's what we're doing, and I want everybody to know that the real fight is fighting hate on a consistent basis and really finding ways to come together for the future.
I have one more question. I apologize. Is there any way after you guys have this discussion that you could possibly get it, send an email or something out so that you can tell us, and that was never answered, what as a community should we do? What is our responsibility? Because give us a directive. Tell us what we need to do so that we can engage you better. We don't know what to do.
Correct.
So is there a way that can happen?
Yeah.
Your website or
right. If you signed in, I'll add you to my listserv and definitely continue to communicate with you. But I want to commend you for being here. I mean, this part, I know you, Yolanda. I know you're very active in the community, and that's what's necessary to continue to push the needle forward. Without voices like yours, then we get stagnant. So I appreciate you all for being here, and I encourage you all to sign in. You know, again, as I alluded to earlier, I think symbolism is it holds some value. You know, we invite you to take a picture with our United Against Hate sign so we can post on our website and we can continue to spread this message of love. But again, your concerns about the systemic issues do not fall on deaf ears, and as Will alluded to, in our limited capacity, we try to address those. Now, there is stuff that's above our pay grade that needs to be done, but we will continue to be a voice for you guys.
The one thing I want to add too, though, is at times we need specific information also. If there's specific instances where you know there's problems with the interaction between the police and the citizens, make sure that's being reported so that it can be looked into.
And there's a link on you guys' website so people can report those things?
Yes, on Dayton, Ohio. Yes, on our main website there is a link under the police department to make complaints, and also if there's a positive experience for you to share that. But I want to point out too who's in this room, because I think it's important that you know the commanders in your area. So sitting right here is Major Joe Wiesman. If you want to, he's in East Patrol. Sitting right next to you is Major Chris Mawson. He's West Patrol. Major Brian Johns is Investigations, and then Lieutenant Andrew Gillick is Downtown. So if there's instances where you want someone at your community event, if there's a negative interaction or something, make sure that that information is shared with these individuals so it can be addressed. I can't say we're perfect, but I can tell you that we are trying. So it's important that if we're falling short, that we know about it so that we can address it and correct those issues.
All right. Before we adjourn, I also encourage you to go to DaytonCPR.org. There's also a little bit less clicks to get to the complaint form or the accommodation form. So we encourage you to do that. And just reiterate the fact that, again, the CPC is here to address these concerns. But I want to, before we close, I want to make sure that there aren't any more comments or concerns about the May 25th rally.
I do have something else, because we talked about the different events and having the police out. So we do a walk the block. But a lot of times residents don't want to walk the block with the police officers. We put out flyers to say we'll be knocking on doors and you come out and talk to police. It's not happening in our neighborhood. And I can tell you this is on the West Pod, which is the west side of Dayton. They're not coming out to talk to the police, and the residents are asking them to come. And so it's going to take more than just the police, and I see your hand. It's going to take more than the police to do this, and it's going to take all of us. all of us are going to have to step up, take this as an opportunity to turn it into something positive instead of negative. Yes, sir, go ahead.
The last meeting you all had downtown at the convention center, there was a white lady stood there and said that she saw a cop come to her neighborhood and she ran to the car. And it's amazing that when a cop comes to a black community, they run from the car. Now what's the problem?
I don't know. You got to help me out after we get finished and tell me where it was and help me understand.
Evidently, the white woman knew the cop. And when they come to our neighborhood, they ain't coming to say hi to me. They coming to arrest me.
Well, I'm going to ask you where you live at when we done. And then I'm going to help you work this through, definitely in your neighborhood. And that's my job. And so we're going to make that happen. I don't even know where you live, and we're not even going to say it publicly. But I promise you, and I'm not even going to look at them, I promise you we will be on your street.
All right.
Now, what I do need is that you're going to be out there with me.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, then.
And tell your neighbors.
As long as you're going to be there with me, I'm not worried about them. But I'm telling me and you.
I'll be there.
Okay, now, y'all heard that, right? Okay, then, there we go. I don't even know your name, but we're going to be there, right?
I'm not going to tell you.
All right.
Okay. Anything else? Well, again, on behalf of the Dayton Human Relations Council and the Community Police Council, we really appreciate you guys coming. We heard your concerns. We understand that there's a lot more work to do, and trust me, we're trying. So I can continue to be reached. I'll say my number in public, 333-1437, or at jared, Jared.grandy, Grandy, at DaytonOhio.gov. I want to hear from you guys, and I want to hear what we can do to address your concerns, and we'll also work on directives that we can give you guys so that you're a part of the process of making Dayton the greatest city it can be. Thank you.
Appreciate you all coming. Thank you.
Get some pizza.